the governor won in a landslide, a pretty strong landslide. The Republican won.
Yeshiva is not promoting Republican.
The yeshiva officially has a very good relationship with Governor Murphy.
Okay.
But I don't know necessarily that anyone voted for Governor Murphy. What undid Governor Murphy was the reason why everyone liked him is because he didn't make mask mandates and vaccine mandates, even though he was a Democrat. But there's an undercover news agency that interviewed in an undercover fashion many of Governor Murphy's aides, who said that the only reason why he didn't make the vaccine mandate because he was afraid it would cost him the election. But as soon as the election's over, he's putting in vaccine mandates. And that destroyed Murphy because the truth came out and people are fed up. Okay. Zok the Heilige Mishnah. Maisa Shabo Shnayim, two people came, Amru, and they said, Ra'inu Shachris b'Mizrach. We saw, and Rashi says in his first shot, if you look at Rashi right at the bottom of the Amud, it's Hayashana. We saw the old moon b'Mizrach at the east side of the horizon. Now, we all remember that we learned that from the time, anywhere you are, whether you're east or west, but from the time that you lose sight of the old moon, it will take 24 hours for you to get sight of the new moon. And the Gemara explained that 6 hours before the Moiled, if you live in Bavel, you will lose sight of the old moon, and 18 hours after the Moiled, you will still not gain sight of the new moon. So there's where there's the 24-hour blackout period. The B'nai Ma'arava, the people of Eretz Yisrael, the people of Eretz Yisrael, for them it's the opposite. Since they're more to the west, they already lose sight of the old moon 18 hours before the Moiled. But they also get sighting of the new moon 6 hours after the Moiled. So here you have Edom who said that Shachas in the morning, we saw the old moon, the Arvis b'Mariv, and we saw the new moon in the evening. Now that's impossible because you need a 24-hour blankout period. That was one shot in Rashi. And because of that, Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, Eidei Sheker. These are false Eidos because it's impossible. Rashi has a problem with this pshat, and Rashi says that maybe you could learn, I'm going to be on the second skinny line in Rashi, nearly they were talking in both instances, they were referring to the new moon. Eidei Sheker, the Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, the reason why Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri said it's Eidei Sheker, once the new moon is visible, why can't it remain visible? So Rashi it's not possible that within 24 hours, within 12 hours, the moon, which was originally sighted on the eastern horizon, should suddenly be at the western horizon. And that's where the Gemara will explain others argue. Because it does say that when they came to Yavne, Rabbi Gamliel did accept them as kosher Edom. So we're going to need to have a little bit of an understanding as to what the machlokes is. So Rashi, everybody agrees that there's a blackout period of 24 hours. So how could Rabbi Gamliel have been makabel them? That's why Rashi likes the second shot, because there's some dispute as to how long it would take for a moon to get from one side of the horizon to the other side of the horizon. Well, we had another case of Edom who came, and they said as following. This is one of the most famous stories in the Mishnah. When they said, Ra'inu bismanoi, we saw it bismanoi. What is the definition of bismanoi? On day 30, because bismanoi is considered day 30 being Rosh Chodesh. But the night after day 30, which is the night of the 31st day, there we didn't see the moon anymore. It disappeared. The Kibble and Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel accepted them. Amr Abdoisav and Hyrcanus. Abdoisav and Hyrcanus commented on this. Eidei Sheker. These are Eidei Sheker. And he asked, Heich me'idin ala isha sheyolda. How could you say testimony on a woman who's given birth? Ulamacha kreisa ben shinel. And the next day you see she's still expecting. That's an impossibility. So how could you say that they saw the moon and then suddenly it's not there?
On the 31st, everybody agrees that the moon is there.
Correct.
Just that they didn't see it.
There's a lot of Torah on this. What is the machlokes about? The Gemara is going to get into explaining what was the machlokes between the Gamliel and Rebbe Benuri in the first case. But what is the dispute in the second case? And to say that it was a clear night and the moon wasn't there, that's very difficult to say, because why would Rebbe Gamliel be mekabel them? Elamai, it was a cloudy night. So if it was a cloudy night, why did Rebbe Yochanan say Eidi Sheker? So this is part of the discussion that we're going to get to.
Rabdoisa has another. I'm focusing on Rabdoisa. Rabdoisa said, how could it be made that a woman gives birth and the next day she's still expecting? Now, how does a person know if a woman is still expecting? She's still big. Perhaps the women are still big because they got all kinds of stuff.
I hear, but you still can tell that they're not expecting it.
Well, you can. I mean, okay, people.
Okay. You
know what? He's right, because it takes some time for the womb or for the stomach to go back to its original form.
I see you and David Zalti are in agreement today.
That's why I'm so happy that I came back to shoot.
So they still look pregnant even after they've given birth.
Yeah, but what I mean to say is, Yosy, that she's not pregnant. You can't say that she became pregnant again. I think that's all it means. I don't think it means that's noticeable.
Okay.
I think it just means that we know she's not pregnant. How is it possible she gave birth today and then tomorrow she's still pregnant?
The metaphor for the melody, it can't be that you saw the moon and then all of a sudden it disappeared later.
That's right. I mean, you say it's a good muscle because we're talking about Moilud, which is the rebirth of the moon.
Right,
Yeah.
right. That's the idea. It happened already. That means it happened already. Can't not unhappen.
Yeah. Okay. So Shalach Levi Gamliel. So what happened was, and Rabbi Shua also logged into the machlokes. Amalei Rabbi Shua, Ryan used to Varecha. He told Rabbi Doitzi, you know what? I think you have a very good point that we shouldn't accept her aids. Okay, so let's understand over here, what is this machlokes between Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Doitzi? So the Rishonim do talk about it because of what the doctor brought up. What could there possibly be a machlokes about? If it was cloudy, Rabbi Doitzi should not have considered the Eidi Sheker, and if it was bright, then what shot Rabbi Gamliel? So there's a couple of things to notice over here. We learned that when Bezdin is Makadosh the Chodesh, it's afilu mutin, afilu shogin, afilu mazitin, even if it was a mistake, whatever they say is chal. So look at what happened over here. In the first case, they went to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, who was not the Nasi. He didn't have the power to declare Rosh Chodesh. But he already said they're Eidi Sheker. Only then did Rabbi be makabel them after he already knew that there's a taina of Eidi Sheker. So there, the Gemara had to explain, and the Gemara will explain why is it that the Gamliel argued. But it's quite possible that in the second story, they came first to Rabbi Gamliel, and Rabbi Gamliel accepted their Eidus and pronounced the Chodesh. Now it no longer matters anymore if Rabbi Doitzi says to Eidi Sheker or not, because once Rabbi Gamliel established the Chodesh, maybe they are Eidi Sheker, but it doesn't matter. Once the Bezdin declares that it's Mekudesh, there's no going back on it. And that's why the Gemara doesn't even explain the machlokes over here, because it's not relevant. The moment when Gamliel is makabel them, there's no room for any type of dissent. Yet Rabbi Yeshua lent support to Rabbi Doitzi. Ryan used to Varecha, what you say makes sense. So Shalach Lai Rabbi Gamliel. So Rabbi Gamliel sent to Rabbi Yeshua, not to Rabbi Doitzi. He said to Rabbi Yeshua, because Rani Elecha, I'm making a gzeira upon you, Shetavai Etzli, that you have to come to me, you have to walk to me, b'maklecha, with your stick, with a moisecha on your money, so let's figure this out. Day 10, according to Rabbi Gamliel, is going to be one day earlier than day 10, the Yom Kippur, according to Rabbi Yeshua. So Rabbi Gamliel said to Rabbi Yeshua, you who think Yom Kippur should be on what I call day 11, on that day I want you to come to me. I want you to come to me with your makal and with your mois. So, of course, Rabbi Yeshua was devastated with such a gzeira. Now, the shaila is, the Noid of Yehuda discusses a very interesting shaila. There's a halacha called Shavia Anafshe Chatiche D'Yisura. And that is, even if something's mutter, but let's say we have something that's basar kosher, and someone says, this is nevela, he may not eat it. He may not eat it, because it's called Shavia Anafshe Chatiche D'Yisura. He made it isur upon himself. There's a shaila, what is the reason for Shavia Nafshe Chatiche D'Yisura? Is it because a person has namonis relative to himself greater than anybody else? Or is it Havdin of a nether? If someone says this is Nevela, it's like he made a nether not to you. Zok to Noid of Yehuda, based on our Gemara, it's more mistaber to say that Shavia Nafshe Chatiche D'Yisura is a din of namonis. Because even though he has the ultimate namonis for himself, the Psak of Rabbi Gamliel will trump that. But if Shavi Nafshi is a Kaneder, so even if today is not Yom Kippur technically, because we go like Rabbi Gamliel, but he still made a nether not to do any malachas on that day, because he was Shavi Nafshi Chatiche D'Yisura. So because of this, Noid Yehuda holds that Shavi Nafshi is more of an amonis, and therefore the fact that Rabbi Gamliel paskin that Yom Kippur is the day before would still allow Rabbi Yeshua to walk with his makel and with his money. What happened was Rabbi Kiva found that Rabbi Yeshua was very depressed. And Rabbi Kiva was known, our Rabbi Kiva as well, is always known to find ways to cheer people up. He was a very big optimist, like the famous Rabbi Kiva who was laughing when he saw the fox come out of the base Kachah Kadoshim when everyone else is crying. And they asked him, why are you laughing? And he said, because what do you mean? That means Mashiach's going to come. That means it's all going to be rebuilt. So Rabbi Kiva always found the way to cheer people up. He always found the bright side of things. So Halach Umater Rabbi Kiva Meitzer. Rabbi Kiva saw that Rabbi Yeshua was very sad. And the Gemara is not sure what this means, Halach Umater Rabbi Kiva Meitzer. Does it mean Rabbi Kiva was sad? Does it mean Rabbi Yeshua was sad? The Gemara is going to end up saying it was Rabbi Yeshua that was sad, and Rabbi Kiva found Rabbi Yeshua was sad. So I'm teaching the Mishnah based on the Maskana of the Gemara.
What's the problem? What's the actual fight?
Halach, he went, Umatzai, and he found Rabbi Kiva Meitzer. So is it Umatzai Rabbi Kiva? Rabbi Kiva. Umatzai Rabbi Kiva. Was Rabbi Kiva found, or Umatzai Rabbi Kiva did Rabbi Kiva find? And that is the question of the Gemara. So
I wanted to find it that the reason why you have to be hola is because just like Rabbi Yisrael Salanter says that a face is a Rosh Hashanah, a person cannot be depressed visibly in the Rosh Hashanah because his face is just make other people feel bad. And now you see that Rabbi Yeshua, when he was upset, he didn't go around.
Oh, so Rabbi Kiva had to go to him. Yeah. Very nice, very nice. Only in private. Halach Umatzai Rabbi Kiva Meitzer. Amar Loi, Yeshli Lilmoi. I have a makar to learn. Shekol ma she'asher Rabbi Gamliel as. Everything that Rabbi Gamliel did takes on the force of halacha. Shneimar, it says, Eila ma'adei Hashem mikrei kodesh asher tikra oisam. And we learn bein bizmanon, bein shaloi bizmanon. Whether it was the right time, whether it was the wrong time, when the Bezin calls it mikrei kodesh, that makes it happen no matter what. Ein li ma'adeis ela elo. The only ma'adeis that I have are these that Klal Yisrael, the Bezin, establishes. Then he went to Rabbi Yosef ben Hurfitz. Omaloi, he said, "In bon anulodon, acher beistina shel Rabbi Gamliel. If we're going to second guess the Bezin of Rabbi Gamliel, well then, shrichen adulodon acher kol Bezin ubezin she'amad mimosh Moshe vad achshav. Well then we can cast out on any Bezin. If we're going to cast out on a Gamliel's Bezin, by the same token, we can cast out on every Bezin. Why? Shenemar, it says in the pasuk, "Vayal Moshe v'Aaron nadav aviyu." So this group of people, these four people, the Torah lists by name, and then v'shivim miziknei Yisrael anonymous. It doesn't list off who the shivim miziknei Yisrael are. Why didn't the Torah list off all of the 70s Canaan as well? It teaches us any bezdin forever that gets established on Klal Yisrael, they'll be just like the bezdin of Moshe. And the Gemara is going to elaborate and tell us if we have a bezdin of three. Someone might say, "I'm not listening to this bezdin. They're not Moshe. They're not Aaron. I'm not going to listen to them." Now you can say they might not be Moshe, they may not be Aaron, but they might be as good as one of the 70s Canaan, and no one can prove them wrong because nobody knows who they are. So therefore, I'm sorry. We're going to soon talk about the Yiddish, but nevertheless, the 70 Ziknei Yisrael, we don't know who they are. So no one could ever compare the Rav from their generation and say, well, he doesn't measure up, because you don't even know who you're measuring him up to.
Yeah, see, we're just talking about Sanhedrin, not Bezdin, right? Or just any Bezdin at any time.
Well, it says Shamdu Bezdin Yisrael, yeah, any Bezdin. That's right. So after Rabbi Yeshua heard this, and he got a chizik to do it. Oh, before I continue Risha, let's see Rashi. Rashi says what I just said. If anybody wants to second guess a bezin in his generation, the loymar and to argue, who are these people? They're lightweight. Why should I listen to them? You can tell him maybe they're not as great as Moshe and Aaron. Maybe this bezin is not as great as Eldad and Medad. But maybe this bezin is just as good as one of those 7, or as 3 of those 7. So what did Rabbi Yeshua did in compliance? Rabbi Gamliel saw him walk in. Rabbi Gamliel got up and gave Rabbi Yeshua a kiss on his head. Amar Loi, he told him, Boy Vishalim, come Vishalim. Rabbi B'Talmidai, you're both my Rabbi and you're my Talmud. Rabbi B'Chachma, you're my Rabbi and Chachma, because you're a big Talmud Chacham, maybe you're greater than me. But the Talmidai Shekibaltas Tavai, you're my Talmud because you're a Makabal my rules. And we always know that you never say Lech Vishalim. You say that to a mace. But for a live person, you say Lech Lishalim, because we want to wish continued success. So here he said, boy Vishal. Boy is different. When you say boy, you're coming, you can say boy Vishal. Come to me in peace. But it's only by Lech where you say Lishal.
Why can't Rabbi Yeshua, this goes back to the discussion we had before, why can't we choose, make another base than 2? It was what made Moshe Rabbeinu's, Rabbi Gamliel's protecting the system.
Establishment.
The establishment. Yeah, he did, that's what he did. But what about the Yeshua could have had to make another base than 2?
I think when it came to Kiddush HaChodesh, it was the job of the main Sanhedrin to appoint the people who would be in charge. And we also learned that the Nasi is given veto rights over everything. So Rabbi Gamliel was the Nasi. So everybody agreed that Rabbi Gamliel was the final word on Kiddush HaChodesh.
The Vigner actually points out, and he says one of the big nisim by the Foreman Abayas is that Beis Shammai, all of Beis Shammai accepted the words of Beis Hillel once they came to that conclusion. We didn't have little Beis Shammai shtibluch, running around. So what Akiva is saying over here is part of that nace, but we didn't have this possibility of somebody else establishing them.
Late Hasidus in Hungary in the 1800s.
And Tzedukah and
There
Batusim.
was the one area where you could eat your chicken with milk.
Washington
No, they only got a half hour here.
That's
Well, it's only a Rabbanon, right?
no, I know, but so in that town
They didn't have that Xer.
They didn't have that,
Uh-huh.
and it's in Bava Metzia. Probably the traffic.
So that's the thing about Tanya. Amar lahem Rabbi Gamliel Chacham. Kach mukubalni mibeis Avi Abba. This is what I was makabel from my Zayda. For Amar Mishabah Barucha, for Amar Mishabah B'Tzara. Sometimes the moon can travel quickly across the horizon. Sometimes it travels slowly across the horizon. So Rashi says in the second shot, where it was the new moon that we were discussing, and the difficulty was how did the new moon get from the eastern horizon to the western horizon? On that, the Gamaliel commented, it's possible. That's how the moon cycles. Rashi says this Tanya does not make sense if there's a fixed 24-hour blackout period. And that's why Rashi didn't like this first shot, that the first sighting was the old moon and the second sighting was the new moon. Rashi likes the second shot, that both sightings were the new moon. The question is, does the moon move across the sky so quickly? Amar Yochanan, my timer, the Rebbe, what as far as Rebbe, who holds that the ages are good. The Chsivit says, "Asa ireach l'mayadim shemesh yadim avodah." So you see from here that shemesh should be yadim avodah. The shemesh has a very fixed route, and if anyone would say edus that distorts that cycle, that's we're sure about, would not be believed. But yerach l'yadim avodah. The moon is mysterious; its travels are mysterious, and therefore you can't say that it's a partial aid, according to Rabbi Gamliel, just because the moon was on one side of the horizon before and another side of the horizon later. Rabbi Chia Chaza with Sierra, the Avakoy B'Tzafra, the Eshrim B'Tish. Rabbi Kiva saw the old moon was still visible in the morning of the 29th day. Now the problem is he needed to make it that Rosh Chodesh should be day 30. That's what he needed, and the reason why he needed it is because if Rosh Chodesh would not be day 30, then Yom Kippur would have been back to back with Shabbos. It would have been on a Sunday. It would have been on a Friday. So by making Rosh Chodesh on day 30, it'll make Yom Kippur on a Thursday, so that you don't have Yom Kippur back to back with Shabbos. But the problem is, how is he going to make tonight Rosh Chodesh if the old moon was visible in the morning of the 29th? He needs to have the new moon visible by the 30th. So what do? Shakal Kala. Rashi says he took a piece of mud, Pasak Bay, he threw it at the moon. The Rebbe Shammai says, Amar, he said, Mr. Moon, tonight I need to be Mekadesh to Levana. I need to determine that it was Rosh Chodesh. And you're still here? Zilichzi, go disappear. Make like a banana and split. We need the moon to go. Zogt Rashi. We need to make Rosh Hashana tonight. To be mechaser el, to say el is only 29 days. And to convince Adam that they saw the moon so that they could make Rosh Chodesh or Rosh Hashana today or tomorrow. They didn't see it. Because if they'd be an extra day in the month of El, Yom Kippur would have ended up being on a Friday. And you're still hanging around? The imtihang nearest Arvis, if you're going to be around in the evening, there's no way we can have Rosh Chodesh tomorrow if you're going to still be around. We said that the night and the day have to be part of the same month. So if the old moon will be visible the night after day 29, the evening of day 30 could never be Rosh Chodesh. So this will be a big problem. So he told the moon to go cover yourself up. I don't know if the moon listened, it doesn't say. Rabbi told Reb Chia, this is what you should do. Zilla Eintab, go to a city called Eintab, and there is where you should declare Rosh Chodesh. And after you do that, send me a signal that this was accomplished, and the signal will be, the code word will be, David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Chai. So let's see Rashi. There's a lot loaded over here.
Basically, the moon said, you got it.
Zilay Tavikache? No, not necessarily. Now I'll tell you why. Because even if they were Makadosh, let's see what Rashi says. Zilay Tavikache. Doig Hoya. Why did he have to make Rosh Chodesh elsewhere? Why couldn't he do it there where he was? Because Doig Hoya Shalo Yeranu Allah B'nei Yirai Kishiyaketchen Lamacha. Even if the moon disappears today, but tomorrow when he's Makadosh it, the people of his city are going to say, this is a joke. We saw the moon yesterday. But for sure, tomorrow the moon's got to be gone. So for sure the moon split. The moon had to split, but the problem is it was seen there, so therefore he didn't want to announce the Chodesh there. Hopefully in Ayin Tov, it was cloudy and nobody noticed the moon.
He's seeing the old moon or the new moon?
The old moon.
He was seeing the old moon that's already past 28.5 days.
Yeah, but it's 29 and a half days. That's the month.
20
29 days, 12 hours, and 700 something
So
halakha.
and he's seeing this when? On the 20?
On 29th day. That's still fine, but he said, I want you to get out of here so we could make Rosh Chodesh tomorrow.
From the time it disappears till it reappears is going to be
24 hours.
24 hours.
Right, so that's why he wanted them to split early.
Split in the moon and then you, that's the new moon.
That's right. So the people of his city saw the old moon all of the 29th day. So therefore, by making the Kiddush HaChodesh elsewhere, the Salak Tlunasam may alai, they won't gang up on me because we're going to do it there. That's one Pshat Rashi. Another Pshat Rashi says, so they catch us a Chodesh. That has nothing to do with that. It just happened to have been some Gzeira in the city where a Pri was, for some reason, never to be Mekadosh HaChodesh in that city. That's why we had to send him elsewhere. And Tosfos says, the reason why he sent him to Ayin Tov, because that's where the Bezdin happened to have been, that was designated to create the Chodesh. So the code word that he asked him to send back was David Melech Yisrael. Why? Because Nimshal Kalavana. David HaMelech is compared to the Lavana. Just like the Lavana becomes stronger and then wanes, so too Malchus Pestabim. This is one of the reasons why we say this pasuk in Kiddush Lavana. David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayim, it's because we're compared to the Lavana in that we have brighter moments and weaker moments. We're not like the sun. It was a very, very cloudy day. The nearest the Muslavana, the Eshim, the Tisha. And they thought what they thought was the moon. They saw what they thought was the moon on the 29th day of the Chodesh. So the Olam thought that it was Rosh Chodesh. They all came running to Bezdin. It's Rosh Chodesh. Uvikshu Bezdin Lakachay. And Bezdin wanted to make Rosh Chodesh on day 29, which never happened. Amalei Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel told him, I'm sorry, Rabbi said. The minimum length of a month is Eshem V'Tisha Yom. So this speaks to Akiva. 29 days. Umechza on 12 hours. Ushnei Shlishei Shah. And 2/3 of an hour, which is 40 minutes. The Ayin Gimel Chalakim and 73 Chalakim. So it's 29 days, 12 hours, 40 minutes, and 73 Chalakim.
Chalakim more than a minute. It's weird.
I'm sorry?
Why did they use
Chelik is a
Chalakim
couple
more
of
than a minute?
seconds. No, Chelik is a couple of seconds.
Chelik was a couple seconds. So why wouldn't he add more minutes and say less Chalakim? That's weird. Hello? Can't hear you.
They wanted to say it was Rosh Chodesh. Rabbi Gamliel wanted to say it wasn't Rosh Chodesh. So because Baruch Hu gave Rabbi Gamliel an opportunity to hammer home loud and clear that today is not Rosh Chodesh. And what happened? Ben Zaza was a Tana, and his mother died that day. You're not allowed to make us paint him on Rosh Chodesh. Rashi says on Yom Tov, because it must be Rosh Hashanah. The speed Rabbi Gamliel has to go. So Rabbi Gamliel got up and was masked with this lady for hours and hours. He made a massive hesped. Not because she was so great and she would normally have had such a great levaya, but it's all about the timing. It's all about the timing. Rabbi Gamliel wanted to make it so clear that today is not Rosh Chodesh that he bedafka gave her a long hesped, so everybody should realize. That's called an esrig. She was his esrig that day. He used her, or she benefited from the fact, maybe because Baruch Hu B'dafka made her die in that situation, because her boyfriend wanted her to have a great esrig from Rabbi Gamliel, nonetheless. Right? And that's how the Rosh made it that way. What's that?
He must have done something.
Yeah, yeah. So a chelik is 3 1/3 seconds.
29 days, 12 hours, 793 Chalakim.
Right. Okay. Well, actually, I like 40 minutes better because I have a better understanding of what 40 minutes is than what 793 Chalakim.
That's the reason they divided the hour into halachim.
40 minutes.
73 halachim.
But then 73 halachim is another.
Another thing to remember now. New unit here.
3.5 minutes.
Right. Okay. Halach Rabbi Akiva umatzai meitzah.
It was discussed yesterday in the Shir for those who didn't hear it, but the Google says that a moon to circle the earth is 27 days and not 29. Right? So it's how do you
A shver Google.
Google how long it takes to
So it's a shver Google.
Google. So Daniel explained that it's almost like the ways, it says to get from here to there it takes this long if you go this way. The moon has to travel because it's traveling together with the earth. It has to travel a little bit extra than usual, and that's the extra day. Really, you can finish the
No, lunar
rotation.
cycle's 29.53059 days.
That's it.
29 you have it as? It's 20, yesterday we saw it was
Cycle.
27.
Okay, so it's a steer Munei in Google. Okay, so Iboilu, me meitzah. Who was the one who was upset? Rabbi Akiva meitzah or Rabbi Yeshua meitzah? Or was Rabbi Yeshua upset? Tashma, Tanya. Halach Rabbi Akiva umatzah Rabbi Yeshua meitzah. Very, very clear. Rabbi Akiva found that Rabbi Yeshua was sad. Amaloi Rabbi Mipnei Mata meitzah. Why are you sad? Amaloi Akiva Royu Loi. I would have been more happy. Sheyipra Lamita Yud Beis Chodesh. I would have rather been sick for a year rather than Val Yisrael of Zerzu, rather than I have to walk on your kippur. Amaloi Rabbi. Could you please allow me to share with you something that you taught me? Amalei Amar, speak. Amar Lo, he told him, Harei Omer, it says, Atem, Atem, Atem. It says, Eila Ma'adeh Hashem Ekar Ashetikru Oisam, but there's no Vav. So we read it Atam. It says, Eila Ma'adeh Hashem Ashetikru Oisam, again, without a Vav. So we read it Atem. And again, it says 3 times Oisam without the vav, and we dash in it Atem 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 Gimel Pamim to teach you the Atem Afil Shogiyin, Atem Afil Mezidin, Atem Afil Amut. The Bedin has the koyach, the Nasi has the koyach to declare Rosh Chodesh even if he's wrong, but it still becomes Rosh Chodesh. The Lashon Hazeh Amalei, the Lashon Hazeh Amalei, the following Lashon he answered back, Amalei Akiva Nichamtani Nichamtani. Why is there a double lashon of nichamtani? Because some people say, some according to my masber, nichamtani, you are menachami, that I have to walk on this day that I consider Yom Kippur. But I was also very troubled that Rabbi Gamliel did the wrong thing, and for Klal it's messed up. It's not the proper day. And that nichamtani, because now I know that Allah L'Mais and Shemayim, the day that Rabbi Gamliel declared Rosh Chodesh is Rosh Chodesh. Why is it that the Torah never reveals the names of these 70 Zakenim? So people shouldn't say, this dying, why should I listen to him? Is he a Moshe and Aaron? Is he a Nadav and Avihu? Is he an elder and Nadab? Why should I listen to him? But Rashi says, now that we don't know who these 70 people are, Emily, you can tell him, maybe he's not as good as Moshe and Aaron. And maybe this dayan is as good as some of the other dayanim that we don't know who they are. Hashem asher ashas Moshe v'Aaron. V'omer v'yishlach Hashem es Yerubal v'es Bedon v'es Yiftach v'es Shmuel. So we're comparing Shmuel and Navi. Let's look at the last one. Shmuel and Navi, Amali Yisrael, HaKadosh Baruch Hu also lechem nisim aydei shisha zakenim alolu. Hashem made nisim to you, to Klal Yisrael, through these 6 zakenim. Moshe and Aaron, who are heavyweights, Yerubal, V'don, V'yiftach, who are not heavyweights. Shmuel. So let's see what it says over here. Yerubal, Zeh Gidon. Yerubal was Gidon. V'lama nikra shma Yerubal. Why was Gidon called Yerubal? Shasa Meriva Mabal. He fought with the Avodah Zarah. Bedon, Zeh Shimshon. He was Shimshon Agibar. V'lama nikra shma Bedon. Why do we refer to him as Bedon? The Asim Bedon. He came from Shevedon. Yiftach Kemashmoy. Yiftach is Kemashmoy. Yiftach was his real name. It's not a different name. The Omer. This is a fascinating passage. It says in Tehillim, this is something that Shmuel said. Moshe v'Aharon b'Chayhanav, v'Shmuel b'Koyrei Shemai. These are the 3 titans Rashi tells us, we say this in Kabbalah Shabbos. The Torah is comparing Shmuel to Moshe and Aaron. In another place where we quoted earlier, it wraps together Yerubal, Badon, and Yiftach with Moshe and Aaron. Why? Shlosha Kalam and Shlosha Chamurim. We have the three heavyweights and we have the three lightweights. So Zokimar Shakal HaKazav Shlosha Kalei Olam, the Shlosha Chamurei Olam. Hashem put the heavyweights together with the lightweights. Loy Malach, Yerubal B'dayoi to Moshe B'dayoi, Badon B'dayoi to Aaron B'dayoi, Yiftach B'dayoi to Shmuel B'dayoi. There's a very famous story.
That's Rashi's version of Noach. One of them.
That's right. That's right. In the Chanami, that's right. So there's a very famous story with the Matastar Faru. There was a Rav there who someone was commenting that he's really not up to par. So the Balabas tells the Matastar Faru, no, Shadach and the Gemura, Yiftach b'doyroi, Yishmul b'doyroi. So without missing a beat, the Matastar Faru said, V'chi Yiftach ishbar, which means what the pasuk literally means is introducing the parsha. If someone makes a bar, he's high for the hazard. But he was saying, Yiftach bar was Yiftach such an empty-headed guy? This guy's worse. This guy isn't even on par of the Yiftach b'doyroi with Shmuel b'doyroi. Anyway, Lalam to teach you. So if you look kal shebakalim, even if someone's a major lightweight, but v'nisman apanis al tzibur, but he wins the election. Hareyu ka'abir sheba'abir, we have to treat him like he is Moshe Rabbeinu. The pasuk says as well, you should come to the dying in your days. Correct the Gemara.
You treat them as Biden or Trudeau
Yep.
or Obama when they're in power. They're in power.
Yeah.
That's it.
The Chisala al Daita. Would you have a Havamina? Shahadim Ahilach, Eitzel Hadayin, Shlahay Biyamam. What do you expect someone to go to a dayan who's not alive in this time? That's not even a reasonable suggestion. So why does the pasuk have to say Ashayir B'Yamim? It teaches you, Dr. Rashi, the first skinny line in Rashi, don't say I need a Moshe, I need a Moshe Feinstein. Today's Rabbanim you have to accept and appreciate them. It says, Al Toimer, what can we do? Rather, we have to accept that today's Regalim we have to accept. And Rashi says, Rashi means the end of the puzzle. This is not a smart question. Surely the earlier days were greater than we are. That's why the old days were better. It's impossible for the new days to be like the old days. Don't say that. That's not a smart thing to say. There's a very fascinating graph on the pasuk of Moshe v'Aaron b'Chayana with Shmuel b'Kayir Shemai. Now, Shmuel was saying this pasuk. So why would Shmuel say Shmuel b'Kayir Shemai? Why wouldn't he say Moshe v'Aaron b'Chayana v'Ani b'Kayir Shemai? He's speaking. He was speaking here. So the graph is beautiful. Moshe and Aaron was zeicha that Shechina medaber mitach groinam. The words would come out from their throat. It was Rebbeinu Shem talking. Wasn't them talking. Shmuel was not zeicha to that madrega. The only time he was zeicha to that madrega was by this pasuk. Zok the graph. Moshe was always Shechina medaber mitach groinam. But Aaron b'Chayana, and Aaron when he was bringing the Urim B'Tumim, he was also zeicha to Shechina medaber mitach groinam. Shmuel b'Kayir Shemai. And Shmuel, when he mentioned his own name, that's also Shechina medaber mitach groinam. Zok the Heilige Gemara Vayit. Notal makloi u'ma'isa b'yada. He took his stick and his money. Taner Rabban, even Shiraisai. As soon as Rabbi Gamliel saw him, as soon as he saw him, Amad Mikisai, he got up from his throne, I guess. The Nashkai al Rosh and he kissed Rabbi Yeshua. Amalai Shalom Alecha Rabbi B'Tamidai. Rabbi said, "Lamadati Torah Barabim. You taught me Torah Barabim. B'Tamidai. Shani Goyzer Alecha Gzeira B'Atam Akaima Kitalmudi. Ashrei Adar. Lucky is this generation. Shagadolim Nishmoim Lektanim. That the great people like Rabbi Yeshua listen to the small people like Rabbi Gamliel. Surely the smaller people will listen to the greater people.
Isn't that contradicting to
I'm sorry?
Isn't that a contradiction when we always say it's cutting the doors, so that when, in order to, at the time of the Mashiach.
Yeah, but even in every generation, there's greater
Yeah.
people and there's weaker people, and the greater people listen to the weaker people. Kol again, the weaker people should listen to the greater people.
That's what makes them great.
That's the more. Of course, you have to listen. Since people see that even great people listen to smaller people, listen to the leaders, the Ketanim say, you know what? If Moshe Feinstein could listen to him, I could also listen to him.
And Yeshua was older than Gamliel. He was
He was for sure greater. Yeah, but it seems like he was older. Yeah. It seems like-
Yeshua was the father of Yechon and Zakkai, Rabbi Gamliel.
He was already later. Gil was later. Okay, so now the next parak talks about Kiyah Shofar, but the first mission is holding on to the subject matter of Aiden. So let's see what the mission is. When it was a crystal clear moon, everybody saw them. Nechru Aiden, and the Gemara explains that this is a separate case. If there were only Adim, and the Adim were analyzed, but whatever it is during the processing, they didn't have a chance to announce Rosh Chodesh on day 30 until it was night. Harei them over. We say that Rosh Chodesh is going to be on day 31. And from the Mishnah, you see that the Tzibur does not have to answer Mekudesh in order to meet the deadline. As long as before night, Bezdin said Mekudesh, that's good enough. What if only Bezdin saw the moon? So they have to say Edus, but they also have to be the Dayanim. So what do you do? So Zok Gemara, Yamdu Shnayim ve'Yidu B'Pneim. Two of the Bezdin, assuming that there's a lot of people in the Bezdin, two of them could stand up and make themselves into Edom. And then V'Yamim Mekudesh. And they could also answer Mekudesh because they could be the crowd. For Ushloish of Hein Bezdin. What if only three people saw it and they are the whole Bezdin? So what do? Yamdu Ashnayim. Two of these three have to now become Edom, but then you only have one person left. And therefore, they'll have to get two other people to sit down and become the Yanim. And then they can say Eidos in front of the Bezdin of three. Because a Yachid cannot be believed to say Mekudesh by himself, and therefore the Bezdin had to get two more people to sit with the individual who was listening to the Eidos. Why do we need Bezdin B'chol Yisrael? It's enough if Bezdin saw it. It should have just said Be'u Bezdin. So Isra. So Kedai Chamina, you would have thought Choyel Be'u Bezdin V'chol Yisrael, since everybody saw the moon, so they know Rosh Chodesh should be day 30. Ifarsim Allah V'lo Liav Ruah. They should not say Rosh Chodesh is going to be day 31. Rather, it should be day 30 because everyone saw it already. The cat is out of the bag. Kamash Malon. B'chiva the Tanalei Re'u Bezdin B'chol Yisrael. Once we had the case of Re'u Bezdin B'chol Yisrael, and they didn't have a chance to paskin and say Mekudesh till the night, so it's the next day, Rosh Chodesh. Why do we need the next case of Nechker Eidim Lamun? It's the same thing. The whole shaila is that we didn't have a chance to declare Rosh Chodesh early enough. So after Mahachi comment, Inami Nechker Eidim. It means if it also happened that it was Nechker Eidim, so the kasha is alamali. Why do you need Nechker Eidim? The Bezdin are the Eidim. So it's up to the Gemara. Or if there was a case of Eidim and the same thing happened, there was a delay. Harei him over. In fact, the Gemara, once we already know that if they didn't meet the deadline, Rosh Chodesh is day 31. Why B'Klal do I need this extra case, a distinct case where it was analyzing the Eidim? The main thing is they didn't say Mekudesh. By the deadline, Rosh Chodesh is the next day. So Kedai Chamina Tavachakiris Eidim Tetchilas Din who Mekudesh Kigmardin. We should treat in a typical monistic in Torah, the Tchilas Din is when they start cross-questioning the witnesses. The psak could come later. And the halacha is the halacha is if they start cross-questioning the witnesses and they start sitting down to analyze the psak by day, even if it drags on to the night, normally Bezdin can't paskin at night, but such a psak is considered a psak of day because it started by day. So maybe huadin by Kiddush HaChodesh. If they started analyzing the Eidim by day, even if they didn't have a chance to declare it Mekudesh, maybe it should still be good. It's just like you find by Dina Mammon is the time. Dina Mammon is done in Beyoim, the Goyim and Balayla. Dina Mammon is they can start by day, they can finish by night. Hachanami Mekach Balayla, maybe they can declare the Chodesh, Rosh Chodesh Balayla. Kamash one you can. Why not? Why Taki is it different than Dina Mammon? Amakra, because it says regarding Kiddush HaChodesh, Yichot Yisraelu, Mishpat Elokayakot. Amos have a chod. When does it become a chod? The Gemar Din. Because currently Rachman the Mishpat. The Torah is referring to the Gemar Din as the Mishpat. And therefore we learn about Mishpat B'yoyim, just like the Mishpat has to be by day, Av Hachanami B'yoyim, the Gemar Din, the announcing of the Mekudesh by Rosh Chodesh, that's the Mishpat that has to be done by day. The Chakir Sha'edim is not considered the beginning. Zok the Gemara Vayter. Ra'u Bezdin Yamdu Shnam Yidu B'fnei. By my fact, the Gemara, Lo Yishtei Shemiya Gedoyla Meriyah. They themselves saw it. If they themselves saw it, why do they need somebody to tell them over what they saw earlier? They saw it themselves. When did they see it? They see it, but they saw it by night. If they saw it by night, you can't say Eidos at night. So therefore, they needed someone to say over the testimony by day. For Shloisha, the Hein Bezdin, what if 3 people saw it and they are the whole Bezdin? So Yamdu Shnayim v'Yoshivu mechavrei metal yach. Correct them, where am I? Hachanami. Name a loishet eishmiya g'dayla. With a different configuration. Why do I need the mission to tell me another case where it's the same halacha? That when they saw something by night, they have to repeat it in the testimony by day. The Gemara Sefer Tzrichale. The Sefer is adding an additional piece of information. The Yachid, the single dayan cannot say Mekudesh. You need to bring two other dayanim to sit near. You might have thought, Dina Mamanis, you need 3 people to pass. But if this dayan was a very big mumcha, then you're even allowed to have a single dayan. Hakanami, maybe over here, this one dayan, since he's a mumcha. Let him announce Mekudesh by himself without 2 more people. Kamash Malon, that for Kiddush Chodesh, no matter what, you need 3 dayanim. For tomorrow, maybe not. Maybe Taka, 1 dayan should be enough. So tomorrow, I'll show you that you always need multiple dayanim. Because nobody could claim that they're greater than Moshe. He was the greatest mumcha of all. And even Moshe Rabbeinu, when Hashem told him about Kiddush HaChodesh, you need iron with you. So clearly, you need a second person. And Rashi says, once you have 2, you need a third, because you cannot have a bez and shokol, you always have to have an odd number. So Gemara, remember the Ed Nasadai? Are you telling me that this aid could become a diet? In other words, all 3 of the people in Bezdin saw it. So technically, they all are Eidim. Yet one of them we're making into a diet. Let's suggest that our Mishnah is not consistent with Rabbi Akiva. The time that we learned, Sanhedrin Sharo Echad Hargas and Nefesh. What if the Sanhedrin themselves witnessed a murder? The question is, do you say Eid Nasadayin? For sure you can't be both at the same time, but could somebody decide to become Eidim and could some decide to become the Yad? So the halach is Miktsasa Nasu Eidim or Miktsasa Nasu the Yadim Diver of Tarfin. Tarfin says, take 2 people from the Bezdin who saw it happen, let them be Eidim, and the other people of the Bezdin who also saw it happen won't act as Eidim, they'll act as Dayanim, and they could be impartial Dayanim on this case. But Rabbi Kiva says, no, Kula Nasu Eidim. You can't let anybody who witnessed a murder actually be a judge on that case. You could never allow someone who saw something to be a dayan, because he's definitely biased. He saw it happen. Zokt. So our Gemara doesn't stem with Rabbi Kiva, because according to Rabbi Kiva, even the 3rd dayan who saw the Chodesh shouldn't be allowed to judge on it. So Rabbi Kiva. Maybe you could say our mission is even consistent with Rabbi Kiva. By Dini Nefashis, we don't allow people who witnessed the crime to be Dayanim. Rachmana Amar, B'shavtu Eidu B'tzilu Eidu. The Torah B'dafka wants to try to exonerate this guy. We're on a mission to exonerate the guy. So we definitely don't want a dying there who has first-hand knowledge of what happened. The Chivin de Chazu, the Kotl Navsha, they actually saw the murder. There's no way they'll be able to actually come up with a Makam Schus for this guy. Therefore, we disqualify them as Dayanim. But here, when we're talking about Eidos HaChodesh, we're not looking to, we don't have an agenda. Therefore, Rabbi Kiva would be Moida, Avada that the eight could be the dying. But by the Dinin of Fashis, if the dying saw it, he's definitely predisposed to condemn the guy. We don't want such a dying. We're looking to save him. Okay, I guess we could stop here. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful, successful day.
Yeah.
And the bris should be the Ido Bismanoi, and it should be the Nachs of Nekel of the Simcha.
Amen. Thank you. Mitzvah by you.
Amen. Amen.